Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. I never thought I'd be the one sitting here, pouring out my heart to strangers. But here I am, Michael, a regular guy who's seen his world turn upside down. It all started a few years back, in a chapter of my life I call The Unraveling. It was a typical evening, just like any other in our cozy three-bedroom townhouse in the suburbs. Laura, my wife of 7 years, was bustling around in the kitchen, the delicious aroma of her cooking filling the air. Our kids were in the living room, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the TV. I remember walking through our home, feeling a sense of pride and contentment. This was my kingdom, my sanctuary. Hey, hon, dinner's almost ready. Laura called out from the kitchen, her voice laced with the warmth that had always drawn me to her. I grinned, heading towards the kitchen. Smells amazing, as always, I replied, wrapping my arms around her from behind and planting a kiss on her cheek. The pandemic had hit everyone hard, but we'd managed to create a little bubble of happiness in our home. However, beneath the surface, there was a tension brewing, a silent storm that I was blissfully unaware of. Our neighborhood, once a haven of peace and safety, had started to feel the strain. Break-ins became a regular topic of conversation at the town meetings, where worried faces gathered, discussing solutions like added lighting and security patrols. I can't believe Mr. Johnson's garage got broken into last night, Laura said one evening, her brow furrowed in concern. It's getting too close to home. I remember feeling a knot in my stomach, the sense of security I took for granted slowly eroding. I'll install some cameras this weekend, I said, determination in my voice. I want to keep this family safe. March 2020 marked a turning point. I spent a weekend installing cameras around the house, one above the garage, another at the front porch, and a third watching over our backyard. I remember stepping back, looking at my handiwork, and feeling a sense of accomplishment. There, now we can sleep a little easier, I told Laura, who smiled, albeit with a hint of worry still in her eyes. But the cameras, which I thought were a solution, turned out to be the harbingers of the storm that was about to hit my life. Our 7th anniversary was approaching, and I wanted to make it special despite the lockdown. We decided to celebrate at home, just us and the kids. The evening was perfect. Games, laughter, and our favorite takeout. I remember looking at Laura across the room, thinking how lucky I was to have her. She was smiling, her eyes sparkling with joy. But there was something else in her gaze, something I couldn't quite place. As the kids drifted off to sleep, Laura and I settled in our bedroom, wine glasses in hand, the soft glow of the bedside lamp casting a warm light. We've had some great times, haven't we? Laura mused, swirling the wine in her glass. The best, I agreed, memories flooding back. Remember our trip to the Rockies? Laura laughed, a sound that always made my heart lighter. How could I forget? You trying to set up that tent was a comedy show on its own. We shared a moment of comfortable silence, sipping our wine. Then, Laura turned to me, her expression serious. Michael, can I ask you something? It's about us, our marriage. I felt a sudden tightness in my chest. Sure, anything, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Do you think there's anything negative about our relationship? She asked, her eyes searching mine. Caught off guard, I replied. I don't think so. Why? Do you? She hesitated before speaking. I just feel like we're missing something. It's hard to explain. I probed further, a sense of unease growing within me. Is it about our sex life? Laura nodded slowly. Partly, yes. I just feel like we could explore more, you know. The conversation that followed blindsided me. Words like open marriage and new experiences floated in the air, crashing into my understanding of our life together. I felt like I was in a free fall, my world unraveling around me. Are you saying you want an open marriage? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Laura bit her lip, nodding. I think it could be good for us, she said hesitantly. The room spun around me. I felt a mixture of anger, confusion, and profound sadness. Laura, I need to think about this, I stammered, standing up abruptly. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions as I left the room, the sound of Laura calling my name fading into the background. That night, as I lay awake in the guest room, a single thought echoed in my mind. My world, as I knew it, was coming undone. The unraveling had begun. The days following our anniversary were a blur. I, Michael, was living in a daze, the words open marriage echoing in my head like a haunting melody. Laura and I moved around each other in silence, an invisible chasm growing between us. Our once cozy home now felt like a battlefield, fraught with unspoken words and hidden emotions. One morning, as I prepared for work, Laura approached me in the kitchen. Her eyes were red, a clear sign she'd been crying. "Michael, can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I paused, the weight of her request heavy on my shoulders. "Sure, Laura. What's up?" She took a deep breath. "I know I've thrown a lot at you with the open marriage thing. I just want you to know that it's not because I don't love you. It's just something I thought could bring us closer." I struggled to process her words. Bring us closer? Laura, how can sharing each other with strangers possibly do that? Laura's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know, Michael. I thought it might help us explore new aspects of our relationship." I shook my head, frustration mounting. "I need to go to work. We'll talk about this later." I grabbed my keys and left, the image of her tear-streaked face etched in my mind. At work, my focus was shattered. The idea of Laura wanting someone else gnawed at me, a relentless ache that refused to subside. My colleague, Jake, noticed my distraction. "Hey Mike, you all right? You seem off today." I forced a smile. "Just some stuff at home. Nothing to worry about." Jake clapped me on the back. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here, man." I appreciated his concern but remained lost in my turmoil. The following days were a cycle of confusion and heartache. Conversations with Laura were strained, each of us tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. Then came the night that shattered everything. I had come home late from work, exhausted and hoping for a quiet evening. As I opened the front door, the sound of laughter greeted me. It was a man's laughter, unfamiliar and out of place. My heart raced as I stepped inside, following the sound to our living room. There, on our couch, sat Laura, cozily nestled next to a man I'd never seen before. They were sharing a bottle of wine, their heads close together in intimate conversation. "Michael," Laura exclaimed, jumping up. "This is Tom. He's from the book club I recently joined." Tom extended his hand, but I couldn't move. My mind was reeling, trying to make sense of the scene before me. "Nice to meet you," Tom said, an oblivious smile on his face. I ignored his hand, my gaze fixed on Laura. "Book club? Since when do you go to a book club?" Laura bit her lip, a nervous habit of hers. "I started a few weeks ago. I wanted to try something new." I couldn't contain my frustration. "And you didn't think to mention this to me? Who is this guy really?" Laura's face flushed with anger. "He's just a friend, Michael. Can't I have friends?" The tension in the room was palpable. Tom awkwardly stood up. "Maybe I should go," he mumbled, heading for the door. After Tom left, Laura and I faced off in what felt like a showdown. "Why are you acting like this, Michael? I'm allowed to have a life outside of this house." "Outside of this house? With random men on our couch? While I'm working late to support this family." My voice rose with each word. Laura's expression softened. "I'm sorry, I should have told you. I feel so trapped, Michael. I need something more." Her words cut through me like a knife. The illusion of our happy life was shattering around me, piece by piece. That night, sleep eluded me. Lying in bed, I replayed the evening's events over and over. Laura's desire for an open marriage, her secretive book club, Tom's laughter echoing in our home. It all swirled in my head, a storm of betrayal and heartbreak. As dawn broke, a chilling realization dawned on me. The life I thought I knew, the love I thought was unbreakable, was nothing but a shattered illusion. And I was left picking up the pieces, wondering how it all went so wrong. The following days after the encounter with Tom were a haze of confusion and suppressed anger. I, Michael, tried to bury myself in work, hoping the mundane routine would distract me from the turmoil at home. But the image of Laura and Tom, laughing and sharing wine, was etched in my mind, haunting every quiet moment. One particularly grueling day at work, I decided to come home early, hoping to catch some peaceful moments before the daily chaos ensued. As I drove, I rehearsed a conversation in my head, planning to confront Laura about our strained relationship. The need for clarity was burning inside me like a fire. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed Laura's car was already there. Odd, I thought. She usually runs errands around this time. I quietly opened the front door, not wanting to startle her. The house was unusually silent. "Laura," I called out, but there was no response. A sense of unease crept over me. I walked through the house, searching for any sign of Laura. As I passed by our bedroom door, I heard a faint sound. It was almost imperceptible, but it was there, a soft, muffled giggle. My heart skipped a beat. That's Laura's laugh, I thought, but it wasn't the joyful, carefree laugh I knew. This was different. I pressed my ear against the door, and the giggles grew clearer, accompanied by a deep, unfamiliar male voice. A cold sweat broke out across my forehead. My hands trembled as I reached for the doorknob, my mind racing with dread. Slowly, I pushed the door open. The sight that greeted me was like a punch to the gut. There was Laura, in the arms of another man, their clothes strewn across the floor, oblivious to the world around them. Time stood still as I took in the scene. My wife, the love of my life, in the throes of passion with a stranger in our marital bed. "Laura," I shouted, my voice a mix of rage and disbelief. They both jolted upright, their eyes wide with shock. Laura's face drained of color as she stammered, "Michael, this isn't what it looks like." The man scrambled to his feet, grabbing his clothes in a panic. "Who the hell are you?" He barked at me. "I'm her husband." I spat out the words, each one laced with venom. The man looked at Laura, his expression turning from confusion to fear. "You said you were separated," he accused her, quickly dressing. I stood there, frozen, as the reality of the situation sunk in. My marriage, my life as I knew it, was crumbling before my eyes. Laura wrapped a sheet around herself, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, please let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I roared, feeling a surge of anger like I had never experienced before. "How could you do this to me?" "To us." The man, now fully dressed, edged towards the door. "I'm sorry, man. I didn't know." With that, he hurried out of the room, leaving Laura and me in a storm of heartache and betrayal. Laura approached me, reaching out her hand. "Michael, I made a mistake. Please, we can work through this." I recoiled from her touch as if it burned. "A mistake? Laura, you destroyed our family, our vows, everything we built together." My voice broke, a mixture of anger and profound sadness overwhelming me. She sobbed, her whole body shaking. I just felt so alone, so unfulfilled. I thought, "You thought what? That betraying me would fix our problems?" I interrupted, my voice rising. We stood there, in the wreckage of our marriage, the air thick with unspoken words and shattered dreams. Laura continued to cry, pleading for forgiveness, but her words fell on deaf ears. My heart, once filled with love for this woman, was now a void of pain and disbelief. That night, as I lay in a guest room, the sounds of Laura's sobs echoing through the house, I realized the magnitude of the betrayal. The love I had for my wife, the trust we shared, it was all a heartbreaking revelation. The foundation of our marriage, once rock solid, was now a pile of rubble, and I was left to ponder the ruins of a life I once cherished. The morning after Laura's betrayal dawned with a heaviness that seemed to press down on the very walls of our home. Michael, awoke in the guest room, a space that felt both alien and uncomfortably familiar. The events of the previous night replayed in my mind, each detail a sharp jab to my already wounded heart. Dragging myself out of bed, I was determined to confront Laura. The need for answers, for closure, propelled me forward. As I made my way to the kitchen, the scent of coffee hung in the air, a mundane detail that felt strangely out of place given the chaos of our lives. Laura was there, her back to me, her posture stiff and fraught with tension. The sound of my footsteps caused her to turn, and our eyes met, hers filled with regret and mine with a storm of emotions I couldn't quite name. "Michael, we need to talk," Laura began, her voice a shaky whisper. I clenched my jaw, bracing myself. "Talk? After what I saw? What's there to talk about, Laura?" She stepped towards me, a plea in her eyes. "Please, Michael, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I never meant to hurt you." Her words stung, a mixture of apology and excuse that did nothing to quell the turmoil inside me. "A mistake? You call that a mistake?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from seeping into my voice. "You shattered our marriage, Laura. You broke our family." Tears streamed down her face, but I was beyond consolation. "I know I did wrong, Michael, but I love you. I truly do. Can we not try to fix this?" The idea of fixing what had been so thoroughly broken seemed ludicrous to me. "Fix this? How, Laura? By pretending it never happened? By ignoring the fact that you betrayed me in our own bed?" She reached out to touch my arm, but I recoiled as if her touch burned. "Don't," I said sharply. "I can't even stand to look at you right now." The air between us was thick with unspoken words and broken promises. Laura's shoulders slumped, defeated. "What are you going to do?" Her voice was barely audible. "I don't know," I admitted, the reality of the situation crashing down on me. "But I can't stay here. Not like this." With that, I turned and walked out, leaving Laura sobbing in the kitchen. I needed air, space to think and to breathe. As I stepped outside, the crisp morning air hit me, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the house. I drove aimlessly, the streets familiar yet foreign in my distressed state. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could the woman I loved, the mother of my children, betray me so callously? Hours passed, and I found myself outside Jake's house, my colleague and friend. Before I knew it, I was knocking on his door. Jake answered, surprise etched on his face. "Mike? What's going on?" I hesitated. Then the words came tumbling out. "Laura cheated on me, Jake. In our house. I just walked in on them last night." Jake's expression shifted from surprise to concern. "Jesus, Mike, I'm so sorry. Come in, man." We sat in his living room, a can of beer in each of our hands, though the alcohol did nothing to numb the pain. I poured out my heart, the hurt and betrayal, the confusion and anger. Jake listened, offering words of support and advice. "You need to think about what you want, Mike. Can you forgive her? Can you move past this?" His words hung in the air, unanswerable questions that echoed in the depths of my soul. Could I forgive Laura? Did I even want to try? The rest of the day was a blur, time slipping away as I grappled with the wreckage of my life. Eventually, I knew I had to go home, to face Laura and the shattered remains of our marriage. As I walked back into the house, the silence was deafening. Laura was sitting on the couch, her eyes red from crying. We looked at each other, a gulf of pain and misunderstanding between us. "I'll stay in the guest room for now," I said, my voice void of emotion. "We'll figure out what to do next. But right now, I can't be near you." Laura nodded, a resigned acceptance in her posture. "I understand," she whispered. That night, as I lay in the guest room, the reality of my situation settled in. This was the day of reckoning, the day my life as I knew it came crashing down. And as I drifted into a restless sleep, I knew that the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with pain. The weeks following my discovery of Laura's infidelity were a blur of heartache, anger, and legal consultations. I, Michael, found myself thrust into a world I never wanted to be a part of, the cold, sterile realm of divorce lawyers and courtroom battles. I remember walking into the law office for the first time, my stomach knotted with anxiety. The lawyer, a stern-faced woman named Mrs. Thompson, gestured for me to sit down. Her office was lined with law books, the air heavy with the scent of leather and ink. "So, Mr. Smith, tell me about your situation," Mrs. Thompson said, her pen poised over a notepad. I took a deep breath, the weight of my story heavy on my shoulders. My wife cheated on me. I caught her in the act. We have 2 kids, a house, and 10 years of marriage that she threw away. Mrs. Thompson nodded, her expression unreadable. "I see. And what are you hoping to achieve with this divorce?" I don't know, justice, I guess. I want to make sure my kids are taken care of, and that I'm not left financially ruined by her infidelity." Mrs. Thompson began outlining the legal process, talking about custody battles, asset division, and potential alimony. It was a lot to take in, and with each word, the reality of my situation sunk deeper. The first court hearing was like stepping into a battlefield. Laura was there, looking small and contrite, her lawyer by her side. The tension between us was palpable, a once loving relationship reduced to cold, legal formalities. "Mr. Smith, is it your intention to file for full custody of your children?" the judge asked, peering at me over her glasses. "Yes, Your Honor," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I believe it's in the best interest of my children." Laura's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client deeply regrets her actions, but she is a devoted mother. We propose joint custody." The back and forth of the lawyers was excruciating. I felt like a spectator in my own life, watching as strangers debated my future and the future of my children. Outside the courtroom, Laura approached me. "Michael, can we talk?" I looked at her, the woman I once loved, now a stranger. "What is there to talk about, Laura?" "I'm sorry, I truly am. I never meant for any of this to happen," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "Sorry doesn't undo what you did," I replied, the bitterness in my voice surprising even me. The legal battles dragged on, each hearing more draining than the last. We fought over everything, the house, the savings, even the furniture. But the hardest part was the custody battle. The thought of losing my kids, of not seeing them every day, was unbearable. During one particularly heated hearing, Laura's lawyer accused me of being an absent father, too focused on my career. Mrs. Smith has been the primary caregiver for the majority of the children's lives. Mr. Smith's demanding job leaves little time for his family, her lawyer argued. I felt a surge of anger. "That's not true," I interjected, unable to contain myself. I've always been there for my kids. Always. The judge called for order, but the damage was done. My outburst had painted me as unstable, emotional. I could see the smug look on Laura's lawyer's face and knew I had played right into their hands. It was during these dark days that I realized how messy, how painful divorce could be. The legal battles were not just about dividing assets or scheduling visitation. They were a dismantling of a life we had built together, piece by painful piece. As I lay in bed each night, the house now empty and quiet, I couldn't help but wonder how it all came to this. The love, the promises, the years of shared memories, all reduced to legal documents and courtroom debates. This was the reality of divorce, a reality I was living every excruciating day. The final gavel stroke in the courtroom marked the end of my marriage to Laura, but it was just the beginning of a new, uncharted chapter in my life. The aftermath of the divorce was like navigating through a storm-tossed sea, each day bringing its own set of challenges and reflections. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with the silence of my solitude. I wandered through its rooms, each corner a reminder of a life that once was. The pictures on the walls, the furniture we picked out together, even the kitchen where Laura used to cook, everything seemed to mock me with memories of a happier time. I tried to immerse myself in work, to drown out the loneliness with busyness. But the evenings were the hardest. Coming home to an empty house, no kids running to greet me, no Laura asking about my day, it was a stark reminder of what I had lost. One evening, as I sat alone in the living room, a knock on the door jolted me from my thoughts. Standing there, in the dim light of the porch, was Laura. She looked different, more somber, more fragile. "Michael, can we talk?" she asked, her voice hesitant. I hesitated, then stepped aside to let her in. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, an ocean of unsaid words between us. "I just wanted to see how you were doing," she said, fidgeting with her hands. I scoffed lightly. "How do you think I'm doing, Laura? You turned my life upside down." She nodded, accepting my bitterness. "I know, and I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you this way." Her apology, sincere as it might have been, did little to ease the pain. "Sorry doesn't change what happened, Laura. It doesn't change the fact that our kids have to shuttle between two homes now." "I know, and I regret it every day," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "But I hope we can at least be civil for the kids' sake." Civil, I repeated the word, letting it hang in the air. "I'll always be there for my kids, Laura. You don't have to worry about that." The conversation was awkward, strained, and short. Laura left, and I was once again alone with my thoughts. The following weeks were a time of reflection and adjustment. I had to learn to be a part-time dad, to make the most of the days I had with my kids. Seeing them pack their little bags every other week, waving goodbye as they went to their mother's house, it was a heartache I couldn't describe. My friends tried to be supportive, inviting me out, encouraging me to move on. But the idea of dating, of starting over with someone new, seemed impossible. How do you trust again after such a betrayal? I found solace in small things, a good book, a quiet walk in the park, the occasional dinner with old friends. But the loneliness was always there, a constant companion in the empty spaces of my life. One night, as I tucked my kids into bed at my house, my daughter looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Daddy, why can't you and Mommy live together anymore?" Her question hit me like a physical blow. I struggled to find the words, to explain something I barely understood myself. Sometimes, sweetie, mommies and daddies are better off living apart. But we both love you very much, and that will never change. She seemed to accept my answer, snuggling into her blanket. But as I turned off the light and closed the door, her question lingered in my mind. Why couldn't Laura and I make it work? Was there something I could have done differently? The divorce had left me with more questions than answers, a puzzle with missing pieces. But one thing was clear, life goes on, with or without the answers. And as I sat in the quiet of my living room, I realized that this was just the beginning of a long journey of healing and rediscovery. The aftermath of my divorce was not just a period of mourning what was lost, but also a time to find myself again, to rebuild and reshape my life into something new, something mine. In the end, the reflection was not just about Laura and the divorce, but about me, who I was, who I had become, and who I wanted to be. The journey was far from over, but I was ready to take the first steps, one day at a time.